Bonjour and welcome to a video that is Explication en anglais. This video will explain what you have already read in the introduction to Lesson 1, which is the International Phonetic Alphabet, what we call in French, l'alphabet phonétique international, or l'API. We'll go over some important vocabulary, starting with places of articulation, les lieux d'articulation. We'll also go over modes of articulation, les modes d'articulation, as well as some other helpful information on how to describe sounds and identify them. Let's start with places of articulation, les lieux d'articulation. Sounds are made using the mouth and the vocal tract. There are many components that go into making sounds, so let's go through them. First, let's start at the front with lips, les lèvres. Lips can be pressed together to make a sound. They can be in combination with other parts of the mouth to make sounds. For example, the IPA symbol is used putting two lips together, so we call this sound a bilabial sound, or in French, bilabial. B, b. Two lips come together. Bi for two, labial for lips. Next, we have teeth, les dents. They are used in making sounds such as f, f. We call this sound a labiodental sound, because it is made using the labial, lip, and the dental, teeth. That is a labiodental sound. Next, we'll talk about places in the roof of the mouth that are used for making sounds. If you run your tongue from right behind your teeth all the way back, you'll notice a change in textures. The first texture, right behind the teeth, is rigid, and it is called the alveolar ridge, right behind the teeth. This is used in making sounds such as t, t, and d, d. You'll notice that the tip of the tongue touches right behind the teeth in producing these sounds. If you go a little further back, you'll notice something called the soft palate. It is much softer than the alveolar ridge. This is used in making sounds such as k, k, and g, g. You'll notice that the back of the tongue touches up to that soft palate for making these sounds. Then we arrive at the uvula, at the very back of the throat. This is used in producing that notorious French R. It's a vibration of the uvula in the back of the throat. Finally, we have the glottis, which is right behind the uvula. We notice this in words like uh-oh. That stop between uh-oh is a glottal stop made by closing right there at the glottis. If you take a look at the IPA chart, you'll notice that the columns from left to right go from bilabial to glottal. That is because it's moving from the front of the mouth, where the two lips are, to the back of the mouth, where the glottis is. Now let's talk about mode of articulation. This describes how much the air is being restricted. In the IPA chart, the rows go from top, which is the most restriction, to the bottom with the least restriction. First, we have plosives, which means a complete stop of air. You'll notice this with the sound p, p. When you close the two lips, there's a complete obstruction of air before it is released. That is plosive. Think explosive. Next, we have nasals. This means that the sound is not coming out of the mouth, rather the nasal cavity. This occurs in sounds such as mm. You'll notice that my mouth is completely closed, so the sound is coming out of my nose. The next row that contains sounds in French is the fricative row. That means there's a constant flow of air that is being obstructed in some way. Think friction. This occurs in sounds such as you'll notice the air is coming through, but there is an obstruction with the lips and the teeth, making that sound. Then we have approximants and lateral approximants. This is sounds such as y, y, and l, l. That's because these sounds are consonants, but they somewhat resemble a vowel in that there is little to no restriction of the sound. Next, let's talk about voicing, le voisement. This is describing whether the vocal cords are vibrating or not when producing the sound. On the IPA chart, if there are two sounds in one box, that is because one is voiced and the other is voiceless. Let's take, for example, the sounds p and b, found at the top left of the IPA chart. They are in the same box because they are produced in the same manner and the same place. They are both a closing of the lips with an explosion of air. P, b. The only difference is the voicing. If you put your hand on your throat and pronounce the sound p, 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 you'll notice that there is no vibration. If you produce the sound b, 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 you should feel a vibration. That is the difference in voicing. Now you know why the IPA chart is laid out the way it is. Continue on with this lesson and you will learn about consonants, semiconsonants, and vowels respectively. Bon courage!